what I love about it is learnable, right? It's
Yeah.
like anything in our sexuality is learnable. I truly believe that we can expand into these different territories. And so a couple of things in there, you mentioned men like mostly being sexual. What was really fascinating is we've had, I think it's close to 500,000 people now take that quiz. And we've been tracking, because we gender, relationship type, like all of these things. And what we found out is men were not all sexual. It was not the highest blueprint for them.
Wow.
So that was really surprising, because a lot of times it's taught like women are sensual, so buy her flowers and do the romantic things. And men are sexual, so, give him the oral sex tonight, like every night. But we actually saw that that wasn't true. And so that was really fascinating, and just seeing, and it also could be that sexuals aren't gravitating toward our quiz, so I always want to give that little caveat, because they may be the least likely to fill them out just because of the way that blueprinting is.
Right. Yeah. That actually makes so much sense. They're like, well, why do I need to take this quiz? I like sex. Comes easy to me. Sex is great. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
That makes total sense. So, we started working together, from a referral to a friend. And I realized that I had a lot of actual like physical healing to do. And so many people in society, and this is not my experience, thank God, but so many people have some sort of sexual trauma in their history. I think our audience would really appreciate going into the healing work that you've done, or that you see, or, we did so much healing work physically, emotionally, energetically. Talk a little bit about kind of the healing work that you've seen, or some trends that you've seen, because I don't think people talk about sexual healing enough. And it's what you and I discovered was that there was so much trauma and painful memory in my tissues. And we literally had to go and unwind that and like release these memories and reframe. So it's really powerful, the work you do. It's not just about pleasure, and it's like you're really helping people with profound healing so that they can open up to pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, so much to say here. So one thing is, once you have those 5 blueprints, there are 4 things to do with that. One is to heal the shadow aspects of the blueprint. One is to feed the blueprint. One is to speak the blueprint, which is body language as well as like verbal words that you're using. And the last one is to expand the blueprint. And so this feed, speak, heal the blueprint. When we look at just the healing aspect, I'm always looking at 4 things. One, what's happening in the emotional realm. And so in these instances, a lot of times people have some kind of historical artifact that is holding them back from their freedom erotically. If that's shame from upbringing, if that's the early messages about our bodies, if that's an actual physical, trauma that someone has had from early sexual experience. One of the things I thought was really interesting with women, one of my favorite books is called Dilemmas of Desire. And that the majority of women, out of all the women that they went through, these were high school girls who were initially having sex just happened. It wasn't something, there were only 2 girls that actually took sexuality in their own hands. Like I was one of those girls. I was like, I want to go to the gynecologist. Like I want to have my first sexual experience. Like, let me learn everything that I can. Like I was one of those rare 2. And for the majority of women, or people who identify as women, this is not the case. Sex is something that happened to them.
Or you just want to get over the first time, get it over with, and
not
be sober while it happens.
Right. Or get drunk, right? Yeah. That was the case, like get drunk, or I was somewhat coerced into it. Like it wasn't fully like something that I wanted, or I wasn't really ready. So that in and of itself, right there is in the emotional realm, can be something that we want to clear from the system. And it's not just in our mind, it's like you said, it's in our tissue. Mm-hmm. And so releasing that from the tissue, I've created this body work modality of listening to the body and going really slowly and feeling, is it in the emotion, even though I'm on the physical body, is it in the actual emotional realm? And it's the emotion that we need to integrate that has charge still that's holding us. So it's like a stuck charge. and it gets stuck in time. And so often when it's stuck in time, we have 4 elements: images. I'm sure anybody listening to this can think of something that happened in their past historically around their sexuality, and there's an image that could be there that's stuck and it's kind of frozen. Or it's an emotion. I was afraid, or I froze, or there's some kind of emotion that the nervous system, I was really angry, but I couldn't do anything because it was unsafe to have my anger in that moment. So emotion, there's thoughts. What were you thinking at the time? What was the thought that's looping and it's still stuck there? And lastly, the body sensation. So once we can help those 4 elements unstick, then we can help that then integrate and move your body into present time instead of being stuck in the event that happened in the past. And so that's really what we're working with on that level. And so we go from the physical body, so 4 elements. We got the physical body, we've got the emotional body, we've got the chemical body, what's happening with the hormones and the biochemistry in the body, which can be affected through the tissue. And then finally, what's happening energetically? And can we help that to integrate? And so sometimes when we're going energetically, we're going into realms like archetypes. Like I'll have my hands on some people's bodies and they'll go into, I see this a lot with women, persecution, where we're back into like, I can't be a sexual free person because I'm going to get called a slut. I'm going to get like, that could be here from when you were young, right? Or the churches, the Inquisition's going to come after me. Sometimes it goes into those archetypal types of energies, and then we're working a little differently in the archetypal realm, even though I have my hands on a person's body. And this can just come from like a touch on a shoulder, and then we're off into releasing these artifacts that are there.
Yeah, it's wild. And I was kind of laughing because I'm uncomfortable again because of that shame associated with sex and even having sex for the first time and not being sober. And just, it's so sad that so many of us, our first sexual experience is either that where we consciously choose to be unconscious because there's so much fear and shame around it, or someone has taken advantage of us and there was no choice. So there's so much trauma for me, I just would love to just that blanket subconscious belief that connects sex with dirty, shameful, taboo, God is watching, God is judging. I don't even know where that belief came from. I'm assuming stories that I heard as a child, but what do you do to help people disconnect just the judgment of shame and the connection of shame and sex?
The first piece is finding where is the shame living in your body, and start to identify just like right now. Anybody who's listening right now, we can go, okay, where's that charge of shame? And what does it feel like in the body? Does your breath hold? Do you tense your thighs? Like what starts to happen? As I even talk about it, I can just feel like a little bit in my throat, where is there any shame from early messaging, and where is it living in your body? And then give it some qualities. Like, what color is it? Does it feel like it's tight? Does it feel like it's big? Is it small? How old does it feel? And as you just start to give it some qualities, just get in touch with it and then listen to it. And then the first thing you can do is just ask it, what are you here for? What do you want? Why is this shame existing? What do you want? And oftentimes the shame is existing because it wants to protect you. It's often a protector part, or it wants to keep you in line. Like I hear that a lot, And so this can just be a simple exercise, just like what we just did, just going in. And I think a lot of people don't want to go in when it comes to sex. It's scary to go in. So sometimes we just have to work with the part that's so scared just to be in the body, and then work with the parts that are so scared to like actually look at sexuality. Like those, sometimes that's a very, very first step, is just, let's just be gentle. I think we beat ourselves up like, oh, I'm in shame and that's not okay. Let's be okay with the place that you're at. Like, it's okay that you have shame. Of course you have shame. Look at the culture Look at what happens around gender, with our bodies, those of us who identify as cisgendered heterosexual women, or what happens if we go outside that box. Look at what has happened historically. Of course we have shame. There's messages every day that our bodies aren't okay, that we need to shift, we need to keep our legs closed, like, of course. So it's just compassion for those parts, and then moving into loving them and listening to them. And then there's ways to actually integrate those parts similarly to those 4 elements. When I was talking about duplicating them when we are on the body, we can integrate those parts, and then we have more freedom and more choice, and we're acting from a more healthful place where we can stay conscious during sex. And then and there's places beyond this. Like, I see sexuality as a tool to our awakening. Is a very deep journey when you decide to go on this journey.
Thank you for listening to the Heal Podcast. Be sure to tune in for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. Oh, and make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. And if you feel inspired, we would love you to rate and review us so that we have the opportunity to reach more people. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram for some behind the scenes fun and more inspiration at @HealDocumentary and @KellyGorris. Thank you so much, and be well.